Freddy Peralta is the opening day starter. Easy peasy. There it is. You make the big move for him. He's the opening day starter. We know what caliber pitcher he is. We know what kind of personality he is, which we, and it seems like the Mets themselves, have really, really enjoyed already. Feels like the extension talks is kind of simmering in the background here, Joe. We've seen Peralta smile through a lot of the questions. Do you think that this is going to get done for opening day? And I guess the question is there even the typical, sometimes self-imposed deadline of this needing to be done for opening day?
According to Freddy Peralta, no. He's not putting that. He doesn't care. He'll talk, I guess, whenever. What is evident to me, and Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon over at The Athletic have reported that it doesn't seem like there's been serious talks, at least as of now. But the biggest takeaway for me, whether a contract gets done or not, Freddy Peralta seemingly really wants to remain a New York Met. And when you have that motivation from the player side, and he is with an agency that has done contracts in walk years and a couple years out from free agency, so it's not something that's uncommon for that side. Now it's just a matter of David Stearns and the Mets front office. Where do they want to go with a contract? Because you're not going to get Freddy Peralta the year before free agency to sign one of those 3-year high AAV deals. Like, that's what you do on January 12th, 2027, if baseball exists, right? Like, that's when those kind of contracts come into play. If you want to sign Freddy Peralta now, you're probably looking at a 5-year type of thing at, call it in the upper 20s, 27, 28 a year, maybe somewhere in that range. Do I think it will get done? I'm going to lean no, just for a couple factors. One, we're heading into an uncertain offseason after this year. Lockout, what's the rules going to be? What's the structure going to be as far as will there be a salary cap? Will there not be a salary cap? And a thing that Jim Duquette brought up on Baseball Night in New York that I think a lot of people haven't thought about, and when I say it, a lot of people are going to say they don't care about it. If the Mets sign Peralta to an extension now, his AAV on his contract, instead of being the $8 million that it is based on the final year of his current contract, it goes to the AAV over the length of the new contract. So you have the luxury tax bill on top of that. So if you mark from 8 into, call it the 20s, and then you 110% that with the luxury tax, like, is it something that the Mets want to do for 2026 payroll or not? And at the end of the day, and I do go back and forth on this, like, part of me is like, just sign him because you want Freddy Peralta to remain a Met. And the other side of me says, well, if you really want Freddy Peralta, you have Steve Cohen and you have the relationship with David Stearns and Eduardo Brizuela. You could just sign him after the season. So for me, kind of go back and forth. That's a long way of saying that. But Connor, what do you think? Do you think something gets done before opening day with Peralta?
The difficult part is, and this is not just difficult for me sitting here in my home office, this is difficult for the Mets and every team in baseball. How do these structures impact a potential lockout? And what does baseball look like when it returns? And hopefully we're not without it very long, although you talk to people in baseball and they are very pessimistic right now about us having a full season after this year. So, it makes it not, and do contracts just get grandfathered in? And then we start with this mythical salary cap, which who the heck knows how that's even going to look, and the disasters that can come with that conversation. I don't know if it's just the optimist in me in spring training, but I actually feel solid about this one getting done because you mentioned the key factor, Joe, that it feels like Peralta is not only open to it, but maybe prefers it. We've heard him, how vocal he is. If he left Milwaukee, this was the place he wanted to be with his history here. And the fact that I think he'd mesh with any clubhouse, but he's a guy that's been on a lot of winning baseball teams in Milwaukee. And these guys are smart. Like, yes, it hasn't happened year after year, but the Mets are an organization that is flooring it to win each year. And you can't say that about a majority of baseball organizations, which is why we're heading towards a lockout. But it's a massive, massive problem in the sport. And these guys are aware of that when they go into an infrastructure that has that. So I think that matters to Peralta. On top of the most important aspect is that they will simply meet the number that you probably need to get to. So I think it'll be close. We've seen some wild, spring negotiations over the years. Notably, Lindor comes to mind, and that one got done. It felt like at the final hour, but yeah, I feel like they'll find a way. And Stearns's history with Peralta also makes this a little bit of a shortened get to know you period. Like, yes, the Mets and the clubhouse are getting to know him, but the guy that traded some high profile players to get him does not really have that kind of gap they need to bridge. So we'll see where it ends up with. But it feels like the fan base is, obviously very invested in this getting done. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him pitch in front of the guys that we already believe in this rotation, Joe.
It's going to be exciting. And Connor, when I was down in Port St. Lucie, walking in that clubhouse and felt like, new kid at school, didn't know anyone, but Freddy Peralta just gave off the vibe. It's as if he's been here for years. Even though he's brand new, he just gave that vibe. I was like, yeah, this guy's a Met. So it's just a matter of where David Stearns wants to go contractually, as you said, from knowing the guy, the person, the player, the relationship, like
What
that
you
all
get every
checks out.
day.
Now it's just a matter of exactly. You know exactly what Freddy Peralta brings to the table if you're David Stearns. There's no mystery. So is this where, because it's going to happen at some point, David Stearns is not going to exclusively build rotations out of 2-year deals for eternity. Eventually, he's going to have to step out to something. And if Freddy Peralta isn't someone you're willing to go to 5 years with, is the list just literally, it better be a Yamamoto or Skubal or I'll never, ever do it? Because if it's not Peralta, the guy that David Stearns knows better than anybody, who exactly meets the criteria, I guess.